Let's discuss why MAGA perceives or views Donald Trump as a very strong leader and why, unfortunately, they're wrong. Because I do get it. I understand the perception of why he comes across strong. Unfortunately, because of how he acts with that perceived strength, it isn't true. So let's talk about it. As always, my name is Derek. This is my Yap About Anything channel, as I'm sure you're well aware. If you want my qualified opinion, that's on the main channel, and we focus on finance and economics. But here, you will receive my unqualified opinion about anything that I feel is important to talk about. So, one of the reasons, and I think it's the main reason, why MAGA and why a lot of people, because remember, he won 2 elections, so a lot of people perceive Trump as having some sort of good quality to lead the country. Now, when you ask these people, there have been, many surveys. A lot of them view him as strong or tough or a fighter. And a lot of people view that as a positive trait to have in a leader. The main problem is, yes, he comes across as strong in his way of speaking. He is bombastic. And we're not talking about, quality of speech, but just in general, he doesn't seem to care what people think. He tends to be bombastic in his language, and he tends to drop the F-bomb here or there, or cuss. And people feel that is natural and strong, masculine, macho, what they want out of an American leader. The reason why they're wrong is because a true American leader may have those qualities, but a true American leader would focus or funnel that energy and that aggression towards our enemies, outward, away from America, towards enemies on the global stage. That would be Russia. That would be China. That would be North Korea. And maybe enemies is a little bit too far, but people who aren't our allies, people who are our foes or adversaries or opponents when it comes to military, when it comes to economic might, these people, and when it comes to basically just societal norms, right? These people are on the other side of democracy. They are on the other side of capitalism in some instances. And look, while those people, the people of the country, Russians are good people, Chinese are good people, and I'm sure North Koreans, if given the opportunity to voice themselves, would be good people. The problem is the leadership of those countries. They have such a grasp on the country that they steer the ship in the direction that they want to go. And a lot of times that is in the other direction of the United States, and it is against the United States. So a true strong leader would call our enemies bluffs. They wouldn't invite Putin into Alaska to hold a meeting to discuss the peace deal, which is really to discuss the surrender of Ukraine and to give up the Donbass region with basically nothing in return for Ukraine, with for lack of a better term, the enemy. A strong leader would call Russia's bluff. A strong leader would, instead of telling the American people who lie on the other side of the spectrum, which is my next point, he would be telling Putin to go fuck himself, right? The problem is Trump instead funnels that aggression, that energy, to Americans, simply because they lie on the other side of the political spectrum, right? So instead of funneling this perceived strength outward, he funnels it inward and creates an enemy at home. Now, of course, this benefits him politically because a divided country is easier to control, and it is easier to get elected if your base views the opponents as the literal devil incarnate, when in reality, Republicans, Democrats, most Americans are good people. Most Americans would help their neighbor if that neighbor was in trouble or distress. But it has been so divided because of this Democrat versus Republican, left versus right, blue versus red. And a lot of that, unfortunately, comes from Trump. It has been so divided that we view the other side as the enemy, regardless of the political side that you lie on. And unfortunately, all politicians do this to some degree. But a strong leader would unite the country. A strong leader would unite blue and red together against common enemies that are outside of the country. And those are common enemies who do not like what America is supposed to stand for, which is democracy, which is freedom, which is free and fair elections, So instead of buddying up, cozying up with the leaders of China, Russia, North Korea, Trump would stand firm against those leaders, would call their bluff, and would protect all American people, not just his base. Instead, he does the opposite. So while he does have some traits that it's almost pseudo strength. They scream strength, but it's just like, like a peacock showing its colors, or like those lizards that show their little, what are they called? Dragon lizard, Komodo, I don't know, the lizards that, I'll put a picture on the screen, right? It is an outward display, or it's an animal getting on its hind legs to look bigger than it actually is, and it is a pseudo display of strength instead of actually uniting the country and focusing that energy against a common enemy. So while I wish MAGA was correct, I wish they were, because this is our leader, I wish they were correct when it comes to the strength of Donald Trump. Unfortunately, he just uses this perceived strength or this facade to instead control his base, split America, divide the country, and finagle his way into what he wants, which seems to be more power, potentially more money, and just to basically feel like the center of the world, because that's truly what it seems like. We need a strong leader. Absolutely. We need a strong leader on the world stage. We are going through a formative period on geopolitics when it comes to China rising economically, militarily. We have Russia advancing into Europe, right, through Ukraine. We need a strong leader right now, but we need a strong leader who shows strength outwardly and protects his flock or her flock, right? And says, hey, we're not going to take that. That's bullshit, and just standing strong to really the actual enemy, not the American people, just because they view things differently. But that's kind of my analysis as to why MAGA perceives him as strong, because it's very similar. The way I would say it is, right, there's this common saying that girls love assholes, right? That's not the truth. Men get this idea that they have to be an asshole to attract a mate or women. Women don't like assholes. Women like true, strong people. The problem is an asshole, in a sense, can put on a facade or a veil of strength, because an asshole can look strong because, he doesn't care what people think. He says no, actually, an asshole or an a-hole is just hiding insecurities a lot of the time. So what women are actually attracted to is actual true strength. And unfortunately, I think MAGA has been falsely attracted to Trump because he comes off as strong, when in reality he's just an asshole to the American public. So that's my analysis. You can let me know if you think I'm right or wrong in the comments. I don't really have a political affiliation. I always say I am pretty much center of the road. I think that most solutions to the problem are somewhere in the middle. With that said, I do tend to lean left slightly, so just, for disclaimer purposes, but I would vote for a strong, proper Republican candidate, no problem, if that person, he or she, was a good candidate. Unfortunately, right now, the direction that the Republican Party, the GOP, has taken is to become more aligned with MAGA and Trump, and, that's why I tend to lean left right now. Also, when it comes to like civil rights and civil liberties, I tend to lean left. With that said, if you like my yap about anything channel, we talk about everything on here. A lot of times it's political, because really what is news? News is politics for the most part. But I'll talk about anything that I think is important to talk about here. Unqualified. This is my unqualified opinion. If you want my qualified opinion, I do have a degree in finance. I have, formal education, as well as over a decade of experience when it comes to finance, economics, investing, personal finance, Federal Reserve policy, monetary policy, inflation, real estate, all that stuff. That's on the main channel. It's just my name. So please consider subscribing to both. It's difficult to grow here on YouTube. It really is difficult. So every subscription matters, even if you don't agree with me. Even if you're on the other side of the political spectrum, if you can have healthy debates, right, or just calm debates, I think that discourse, friendly discourse, is the key to solving any problem here in this country. So everyone's welcome. Let's just keep it. I don't even want to say friendly, because it's the internet. You don't have to be friendly. Let's keep it productive in all our discussions and debates. With that said, hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.